This is Dr. Brooks Gibbs, the leading influencer, sociologist, and educator in the EQ, social emotional learning space. And Charity Bomb has the very great fortune of having Dr. Brooks as not only a very dear friend, but a partner with our initiative for 2020, which is Operation GenZEQ. I wanted to make a quick video for everybody just to give them some tips on how to endure this unprecedented global lockdown that we're experiencing and to mitigate the potential harm it might have on children's emotional well-being. And there's no better candidate to do that than Brooks. So, Brooks, if you could just say how do you do to everybody who may or may not know you, give them a little bit more about what you do, and then I'll just ask you a few questions and we'll give everybody some help.
Thanks, Matthew. Always great to collaborate with you guys. And it is a hard time in our nation's history, but this will pass, and you want to pass the test. And I think that's how we all need to view it. We want to be able to look back on 2020, specifically the spring, early summer of 2020, and say, did we get through it with a gratitude or a saditude or a matitude? What type of attitude did we have? And I hope that we choose happiness, we choose gladness, because it is a choice that we make. Because as parents, we are also models for our kiddos. And if they see us walking around the house like we've been soaking in pickle juice, all sour and angry at the world, then they're going to take on those. Just as they took on our accent, they're going to take on our attitudes.
It's a very good point. Two big points that were in there. One is it's a choice. I think that's critical for for parents to know they can choose how to handle this. You know, we're not victims in this. You know, this is when we step up and be strong as parents, and we guide and raise our children, instilling the best values and the best attitudes we can, while also helping them to mitigate or avoid the pitfalls that such circumstances could possibly leave them with. So, what has it been like for you speaking with kids? What's it like from their perspective, so parents can understand what they're feeling?
Kids have a natural ability to feel both sides of the spectrum, thrilled that they don't have to go to school, but then also devastated that all of their extracurricular activities like I don't know, what is my Little League, games are canceled. And so they like waves crashing, every once in a while. There'll be ups and there'll be downs. And so we have to kind of ride that wave with them and show real empathy. And so when I talk to kids, typically I do a call-in show in the morning, and so kids will call in and they're typically happy to talk to me and stuff. But once we get talking, we'll realize, they got some real challenges. And there's some, when I see them, they're not in their manic state. They're usually next to mom or dad in sort of a calm state. Okay. But I try in my mind to talk to them. Let's go back to that manic state. And what are those thoughts that you were thinking when you're having a freak out? And typically they're demanding thoughts. I must go to Little League. I must, be able to have a birthday party with my friends. And so what we have to do with kids, I'm discovering, is wherever they have a grip, we have to help them give up the grip. And it's that demand that this must happen when it can't happen. It's out of their control, and they need to adjust to reality. So that's what parents need to be doing in this season, helping their children adjust to the sad reality and finding a good to replace the bad.
How are parents explaining this to children? Because it's really, it's a very sort of convoluted and confusing, murky reality, right? Like there's and it's sort of, it's dystopian and it's terrifying. There's a virus out there that's spreading and hurting and in some cases killing people. So how are parents explaining that to their kids, or what is the best way to explain that?
Well, I think there's the whole spectrum from we need to sue China, some parents are saying, so kids just parrot that, to we hate our president, we think he's not doing enough, to conspiracy theories from that this is all nothingness and the government's just trying to get a tighter grip of power and control. Children parrot what they hear their parents say. I do a group call every week with about 5 or 6 kids, and just to hear them compare, what their assessment of the whole thing is a reflection of their parents. How should they be viewing this? I would say, look at the CDC. What I did with my kids when we decided to go to Disney World on the very last day it was open, there were still some. Yeah, you did awesome.
Last
we
week
did too. Awesome. Now I got a bunch of haterade dumped on me on Facebook. Like, you wouldn't believe how many people, when I put a roller coaster picture of me on a roller coaster. But I tried to explain it. I said, boys, we're going to a place that is incredibly populated from people all around the world, and there's this virus that we're learning more about. Let's research the stats and let's compare it to other things like the flu. And I know people don't like to compare it to the flu, but man, at that point it was just like less than 100 people, had died from it. Just a couple thousand were infected, at least the cases we knew. So I explained to my children, I think every parent should say this, if we stay home and don't risk anything, we're going to live a miserable life. We have to risk. That's what life is. We have to risk. So if we're going to go on a roller coaster, we're risking it falling off the rails. But we trust that they've done their due diligence and it's going to hang on there. And if when we go on a vehicle, we know we might get hit. But that's why we wear a seatbelt. So keeping it in perspective. Now, as the numbers grow, and I think as of this interview, the projection's about 100,000 dead potentially in the near future by summertime here in America. Although just a couple thousand from what I understand. It is becoming more of a risk to go out and mingle, and so we are staying in more. But I guess just to get to the point, I'm sorry for being long-winded. We want to help get our information from reputable sites and not talking head, histrionic, insane media that is their motto is, if it bleeds, it leads, man.
I was gonna bring that up as one thing that I sort of, one of the takeaways that I was, I was hoping, I want to get your take on, and I was hoping that this would be your response. But what role the media is playing in conflating this issue. I have a 2-year-old son, so he is absorbing an extraordinary amount, like you said at the top of this interview. I mean, they're sponges. They take up everything, and he's sort of conceptualizing things. And he's, from when he was born, he was taking things apart and analyzing them. If I would show him a pop-out book, he would peek over. The first thing he would do is peek over the page to see how that works. And so we don't have the news on we don't really do a lot of TV. We don't do TV. We don't watch TV. We have a Netflix subscription, and that's it. But I know a lot of households do have it on a constant basis on several TVs in the car. You almost can't avoid it. Would you agree that it's best that they leave that stuff off?
I do think that it's wise to not play the news. Their ratings went up 80% just in general across the board from Fox, CNN, MSNBC, 80%. So it's like when a hurricane comes, everyone's watching the Weather Channel. So wow, they're going to capture that, and it's money-making time. So there's definitely some conflict of interest in what's best for the country and what's best for the companies. So they're going to make it sound like the world is ending. So don't. I would say definitely turn it off. Go to digital sources where you read articles, and particular the WHO, the
Yeah.
World Health Organization or CDC, and maybe you have a commentator that you really appreciate that seems rational to you.
Yeah.
I'm fine with parents, tuning in and just seeing what they're having to say for the day as it develops, but definitely keep it away from the kids.
Yeah.
What we want to keep in mind is internal locus of control, external locus of control. And these are in social sciences, in the study of happiness. People who have external controlling factors are most miserable. People who have internal controlling factors are most free, feel liberated and happy. So we want to promote things that we have control over and avoid obsessing over things we have no control over. And when it comes to the news, they're just showing you what you don't have any control over. But when you look at what can we do today to take advantage of this special opportunity, my dog is tired of the walks. We're going on so many walks. We started a chalk kind of challenge in our neighborhood to do, guess which movies sort of and draw a fun little trivia thing on our streets.
Yeah.
The neighborhood's really catching on to it. We're doing Lego challenges and sharing those around the country. It is such an exciting time, man.
Yeah.
We've been to the park. We've kayaked. I'm getting tanner and tanner and tanner.
I was going to say, you look pretty good.
It's a CORONAcation. What can I say? That's what we want to look back on. Even though, listen, man, 4 months of my income vaporized in a sneeze. That's really hard. That's a third of my entire income. I know you guys have been devastated, but what am I going to do? I have no control over that.
Exactly.
So I'm gonna have control over what I do have control over, and have fun doing it.
You're incredible, and you're an incredible. Just for anyone watching this, Brooks and I met maybe 5 or 6 months ago, and my partner Ryan, he met Brooks under exclusive circumstances to this, and he said, you got to meet this guy. And when I met him, it was one of those love affairs where the honeymoon phase continues to evolve, which is rare and
love at first
nice.
bite.
So yeah, that's right. And it just so happened that I run a charity, and our new initiative is exactly what Brooks is the leading expert, in my opinion, after exhaustive research. When we came across Brooks, which I did before I knew that my partner even knew him, I was like, this is our guy. And anyways, you'll see we'll post all of his his digital properties down there, and you take a look for yourself. But do yourself.
Well, I appreciate. I'll say this. I appreciate you guys making it a priority. The EQ, which is the emotional intelligence of children, which is the Gen Z generation, which are the most emotionally volatile generation we've ever seen. And this, when you tell kids to stay at home instead of going to school, we don't realize the unintended negative consequences that creates.
Right.
Many times school is the escape for children. They live in a home that's not a fun environment. It's very dark. It's they got cruel parents many times, or their siblings torture them on a regular basis.
Sure.
They would much rather be picked on in school than be picked on by their sibling who knows exactly how to get under their skin. So we're going to see, unfortunately, an increase of everything that we're fighting against.
Yeah.
I think we'll have more deaths because of suicide. Unfortunately, the economic crash and the isolation, the social isolation, it is going to have such a horrible effect on this Gen Z. The coronavirus, is not going to take as many as people as have with suicide, self-injurious behavior, non-suicidal self-injurious behavior like cutting and drugs and alcohol and stuff. So we need to continue to crank out helpful content to kids stuck at home, stuck on this thing. Usually there's 7-8 hours, y'all. 7-8 hours a day. Plus there's 7 hours in school. Now they're close to 14 hours, 13 hours on this thing, trying to consume media, and we need to be there. So I appreciate the work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you. And obviously that's reciprocated tenfold. And we can wrap this up and make this a nice little bite-sized piece. My first one, by the way. So.
Good. You did good.
Yay. I wanted to end, I always, in any circumstance, no matter how dire or dark or seemingly irredeemable it may be, I believe there's always a positive. I was going to end on that, asking you what the positive takeaways are from this, or what are the hidden benefits? What are the blessings in disguise? And you intuitively started to end with them, which is something I think we should elaborate on just a little bit more. I agree entirely. There's an incredible opportunity here that I feel like the last generation or two, sadly, for them, have lost out on, which is community and family. And this gives us an opportunity to reconnect with our families, to spend time with them, to learn how to communicate or relearn how to communicate, get to know each other. My wife has got this thing going around our neighborhood where we're putting rainbow flags in the windows and bears in the window. And we're getting all the kids in the neighborhood to do it. So they are like cruising around the neighborhood looking for the rainbows and the bears in the windows, to spot them. And it's just a really exciting thing. And, we're having conversations. We've got to know, we're new to this area, so we've gotten to know at least 10 families through this, and we've spent innumerable hours together. And I find that a blessing because family and community are everything to me. That's where I derive all my pleasure and where all my love goes, and I would encourage anyone who hasn't been able to experience that or hasn't invested enough into that to give it a try, because that's where I think you're gonna find the biggest gains and rewards.
Well, I agree, dude, that looking at the upside of the letdown that we face is a skill set that we need to definitely be exercising. And there's a whole lot of good. When people talk to me and they say, oh no, my kid is going through this horrible challenge, I said, no. It's not horrible. It's an opportunity. It shows us where we're weak. It shows us where we need to be strengthened. Whenever we have, whether it's an adversary, someone who's coming against us, or an adversity, something coming against us, it brings out our weakness. It shows us what's on the inside. And when it comes to personal development, we can kind of see, man, I didn't realize I was so fearful, or man, I didn't realize that I cared that much about this or that. So it's soul searching time, man.
Yeah.
And I think the two things that you are using are great symbols of hope. Of course, the rainbow originally came to us in an old Jewish story of a flood, and the rainbow, as the old saying goes, even though we know it's a spectrum from the sun hitting lights at a different age.
Figured it out.
But, right. But the original story was so beautiful. It says you're not going to be destroyed by this ever again. Like there's never going to be a flood like that. And that's what we can confidently say to people. Yeah. The fact that we finally are listening to Bill Gates, and we are getting our reserves of hospital equipment now,
right.
And we're finally getting organized and developing associations and communication protocol to help mitigate and isolate these type of pestilence that'll come against us. We're never going to be in this situation again. Right. We're never going to be in this situation. It's fantastic. Yeah. So we have hope. That's what the rainbow represents. The bear represents comfort and care.
Yeah.
To say you are valued, you are loved, and we care about you, and we want you to experience comfort. So this is a time to get back into family. And I've never felt like I've ever been in the 50s until like now. Like this is like old school stuff. We're talking Little House on the Prairie.
Totally.
And I know that was the 1800s, but still, or the 1850s. But we do need to focus on the good, and you have to look for it.
Yes.
You have to look for it.
There's
what Mr. Rogers said for many years. He says, parents, when you see the people running away from the tragedy, look for the heroes, the firemen and the policemen running in to rescue. You have to change how you view this negative picture and focus on the good story, because your feelings will follow what you focus on.
This guy is a treasure trove of very useful knowledge. Always a pleasure, always with so much love and gratitude and admiration for what you do for the world. My friend, you are going to grow quickly because the world needs your knowledge, and so we're thankful that you're here. Thanks for existing. And
yeah, man. You know, my dad, he's from Texas. He says, when you see a turtle on a fence post, you know he didn't get there on his own. Someone helped him up. and you're one of my helpers, and I appreciate all the help you've given.
I've been called many different forms of turtles. That's the best one.
Right on.
Thank you, my brother,
Thanks,
my
man.
partner.
Yeah,
have a wonderful day, and thanks for the information.
My pleasure.
All right, Dr. Brooks Gibbs, take care.